Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast, where we talk about why today's headlines are important for your success at work. My name is Peter Rahbar, and I'm your first call on legal issues.
I'm Laura Brounstein, and I should be your first call on comms and content. And hello, Peter. Do you know what today is, Peter?
Big day. Big day.
It is our 50th episode.
50th episode.
50th
Unbelievable.
episode. Look, and
We did it.
Annabelle is joining as a special guest star for the 50th episode. You will see my
Oh,
fluffy cat if you are watching on video.
she's been a star contributor, so great
Yeah,
to have her
really,
join for this
literally
special episode.
She really puts her butt into it. I mean,
Yeah, as we've seen on YouTube. She's a YouTube star.
we made 50 episodes of this. Thank you for being so diligent and into this with me.
Keeping you in line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've come a long way from that lunch at Cafe Zafri where this all began, right? I mean,
Yes.
this is where the idea
As
came
all
to
good
life.
things, it started with good food and good people around the table.
That's right.
And
That's
here we
right.
are.
Here we are. So
All right.
great to be here with you. What are we going to talk about in this milestone episode?
It's going to shock everyone who has listened to any other episodes to hear that we're going to cover AI in this episode.
Yep. Why not?
As anybody tuning in or has listened before knows, we look at the week's events and see how they should be taken into consideration in your own work, career, business life. And one of the things that obviously keeps coming up is AI and the big trial of the century going on where Elon Musk and Sam Altman are warring over aspects of OpenAI and what kind of company it was meant to be and what kind of company it is now. And the discovery, the pieces of discovery on that have been very interesting. So we're going to hear about what was discoverable, and that will lead to what you should and shouldn't be recording for your meetings at work and how you should be handling that. The monitoring of emotions in the workforce with AI, yes, it is as creepy as it seems. And then the delicate art of payoffs and the bad behavior company of the week. Something new I want to start. There's a company that exhibited very bad behavior in relation
Oh,
to
wow.
prioritizing AI, and we're going to talk about them. All right,
Yeah.
Peter. Let's talk
Well,
about
AI plays a piece in each of those stories, by the way. So
the
we'll
delicate art of
get.
payoffs, not so much.
Yeah, it does. It does. We'll talk about it when we get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start in California at the trial
Let's
that's still going on.
Let's start our conversation this week inside the trial of the century. What is who suing for, Peter, as our legal expert?
Yeah, well, we have a battle between two of the foremost tech CEOs and visionaries. Elon Musk is suing Sam Altman and OpenAI, basically saying that OpenAI was supposed to be a nonprofit and that Sam Altman and other leaders of OpenAI essentially stole and misrepresented money from investors who thought it was going to be a nonprofit and made it a
But it was
profitable for-profit company.
in the beginning. Like that did happen, didn't it?
Sure, and you know, we're not here to like talk about all the back and forth of like the validity of the claim and how Elon Musk, you know, claims it had to be a nonprofit to save humanity, but then went off and started his own for-profit AI company, and
No,
it seems
give
like
people the context. That's helpful. Give people.
yeah, I mean, Musk and others donated money to OpenAI, thinking it would be a nonprofit, and then, you know, as it's come out in the trial, Musk then participated in discussions about taking it for profit, but wanted an overwhelming share of it and wanted to run it. And when Sam Altman and the board said no, he, you know, threw a fit and left, and then the company's, you know, expanded and obviously has grown in multiples. And he wants a piece of the action. That's what this is all about. And you know, one of the
Musk suing Altman and OpenAI.
yes. And
do you have I don't know if you're a betting man, Peter, but are you placing any bets on how this will play out?
yeah, I think OpenAI probably wins. there's a lot of damning evidence for Musk and like what his real motive is and what the claim is here. Look, I mean, one of the dangers of Elon Musk, we talked about it, of Elon Musk becoming a trillionaire is like these type of tactics using the legal system as a weapon. And so here he's unhappy with a business decision he made and how it turned out and a missed investment opportunity. And now he's tying up, this company, which has a lot more important things to focus on in litigation. And he has really no incentive to settle. And it's pretty incredible to watch. But one of the interesting things that's come out of this is the amount of evidence that's come from text messages between executives and also the diaries of at least one executive.
That's so terrible. Is nothing sacred? I guess no, nothing is sacred.
Well, not when you get into a lawsuit environment. Basically anything that is related to the lawsuit or claims in the lawsuit is potentially discoverable. So when you're an actor who's tied to a company in a lawsuit, and you receive a subpoena that says we need everything you have that's potentially related to this case, then everything is fair game. Your text messages, emails, diary entries, things like that. And it's incredible that there were so many in this case. And it's a real example of how you should be careful about what you put in writing, whether it's in text, email, AI prompts, or in this case, Greg Brockman's diary. And we know that journaling has become really big over the past few years, but journaling your inner thoughts about, how you're potentially steering a business deal is pretty stupid and for a smart person to be doing. And so, my recommendation, if you don't want to be in this situation, I think there's some steps you could take to, help keep yourself out of it. So, first of all, my recommendation to all senior executives is that you have two devices, one personal, one business. And you conduct all your personal, correspondence on the personal device. It's not listed on your email signature block, nothing. It's all there. You don't do texts on that phone for business purposes. It's a clean personal device. And then you have another device for business where you do everything for business. And I also recommend for your personal email and texts to do a cleanse, every couple months, like delete messages. There's really no need to keep years of messages. And in this case, there were messages from years ago that should have been deleted a long time ago that are now front and center.
Like I would not know what I should and shouldn't delete. Are there services for this?
I mean,
if you're a service for this, call us.
Yeah, but like with your text messages, you should just clear your chats every couple months, twice a year, something like that. So it's just not there. Who knows?
I've gotten in the habit of it, but there are certain things that are like sentimental and you want to keep. What do you do with that?
So keep them. Take a screenshot and keep them. Delete everything else. I mean, what do you need to go like reference conversations from 6 years ago? I have friends who do that, by the way. It's always really creepy. And I always tell them that. I'm like, why do you have this conversation? It should be deleted. But
I've got texts going back to
yeah, not a good idea. And it also, the example with my friend sending me things from years ago also shows the danger. Like you could delete on your end, but maybe the other person's not deleting. So that takes me to my next piece of advice, which is if you have something really sensitive to talk about it on the phone, talk about it in person. Don't put it in text. Don't put it in email. Don't put it in your journal.
You say check whether you are in a one or two party state. If the person you're calling is in a one party state, you're just as in danger if you're calling, aren't you?
Yeah, potentially. But, if it's someone you trust, right? Like you could have a conversation. Just imagine how different it is. Okay. Like, so just imagine how different these two scenarios are. First one is what actually happened in this trial. So, Sam Altman and Mira Murati, the number two in the OpenAI, they have all these texts back and forth to each other, from years ago. Now, those texts are put in front of them in trial. The texts are what they are. They can't say, I don't remember that conversation. They can't say it didn't happen because there it is. It's right there. Now, they probably have hundreds of conversations a week, which means they have hundreds, thousands of conversations a year. A lawyer sitting across the table for you says, hey, do you remember that conversation you had at 3 p.m. on January 8th, 2021? Probably not. Are you saying it didn't happen? No. Are you saying it happened? I don't know. It may have happened. It may not have happened.
Reporting of it, then it's
Yeah,
just as evidential, isn't it?
No. Well, these are two people on the same side. So at the time, so it's very different. It plays out very differently. I mean, it plays out very differently.
Yes.
And also, there's nothing to produce in that situation. So I think you got to be careful about your communications. And the same goes for AI. We talked about this, in many episodes where you and I go back and forth on AI.
I think you made a
usage.
We have not talked about as clearly a point that I think you're going to make, which is good, that if you're having AI record and take notes on every meeting, clean that up. That is work product that is discoverable now, right?
Yeah. So first of all, your AI prompts are discoverable. That's like an emerging area of law. And then second, as you mentioned, there is this trend, and I've seen people. I mean, there's people who do it different ways. So like, Zoom and some other, platforms, conferencing platforms offer note taking where they record everything. There are people I've seen carrying around, disc looking devices that record meetings and then summarize them. I think if you own a business, that's a really bad practice, frankly, because everything said, all those summaries, whatever's retained is discoverable. So you now have a record. You can't be the one business executive in the world who conducts themselves, totally above board in every single situation, every single meeting.
Yeah.
So,
I'm above board, always.
you have to weigh the value of like having those notes, which you can also take in different ways, versus having a transcript of everything you said.
Is it any safer to have it on voice messages on your phone? No.
No.
Voice recording.
No, I mean, look, if you're going to have it, I would just say that it needs to be on a very short delete schedule.
Yes.
That is consistent across the board, doesn't vary amongst people, and is not deviated from. So that's what I would say about that, and I mean, you could also there could be a company where they say, we're going to record all the meetings. And there are some that Bridgewater, which is a huge hedge fund, has done it for years. If you're recording everybody, but not some people, that creates a negative inference too. So, I don't recommend it. I think most lawyers would say, don't do it. It's creating a nightmare in litigations. The upside is just so minimal.
Good advice. Good advice.
Yeah.
Very good advice, Peter.
But I will admit, I'm pretty conservative on these things. I mean, I love new technologies, but creating recordings of meetings, I mean, it's just such a bad idea. I mean, I just can't imagine.
Okay. So if AI was monitoring this conversation, it might clock that this is making me anxious, which it is. And
it's crazy how I could do that to you sometimes,
Oh my goodness, you can send me spiraling. And so there's a whole new school of employee surveillance that monitors emotions in the workplace and can be used against you, like in the workplace. If you're not cheerful enough, that can work against you, and not just if you're a Disney character. Can you talk about this? What are you really responsible for being chipper?
Well, I mean, I've certainly heard of managers criticizing their employees for not having the right attitude and not being supportive enough or having the wrong tone or whatever.
True.
But again, companies may think this helps them, but it also creates liabilities. Like, for instance, what if it detects anger and irrational behavior from an employee and you don't do anything about it? Then all of a sudden you go from a company that, didn't know because something happened in private to the company that tracks all these emotions and knew about it and was like, there's nothing we could do, or we're choosing not to do anything about it.
There was a really interesting article by Jodi Cantor a few years ago that I went down a rabbit hole and found that talked about kind of tech creep and how it usually starts and becomes normalized in lower skilled more vulnerable work populations, like factory workers. And then once it becomes sort of normalized, people are like, oh, yeah, we know that Amazon is surveilling its employees. That's not great. But once it then, seeps out to radiologists and, engineers having their work tracked, it we wonder how it happened. And this is how they get people used to it.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of this is happening in office environments, and there is this big movement now to either remove responsibilities from managers' plates or like totally remove mid-level managers. And Coinbase last week made an announcement where they said we're removing manager titles. Like we're not going to have managers. Everyone's going to be individual contributors, which doesn't totally make sense because they
So
still
no one's
supervise
going to have a
people.
boss?
Yeah, I mean, in some of these tech bro
Or
dreams, this is like, nirvana. Like
I don't
there's
know.
one
I've met
boss.
a lot of Gen Z and millennial teams, and those kids need feedback and reassurance all day long. I don't see how that's going to work.
Oh, it's a nightmare scenario, and it just shows how little regard some of these companies, and particularly newer companies, tech focused companies, how little regard they have for career development of their employees. Like there's
Yes,
no
and how
clearer
little
way of saying that.
is people. I mean, I sort of said that jokingly, but the fact is, it's a good thing that there is better communication now between supervisors and their team. And this would upend that completely.
I mean, people need feedback. They need people to turn to in moments of, difficulty or crisis or for support and positive reinforcement. I mean, it's crazy to me to think that having management is not important. Now, you sometimes, and I think a lot of these things now are just excuses for moving pieces around a balance sheet. So we're going to talk about the costs of AI and how that's had different impacts on companies, but like taking out tiers of management so that you could, refocus that money elsewhere on AI spend or other things, that's happening too, for sure.
Well, okay, that brings us obviously to our bad behavior company of the week, which I don't know if it'll catch on, but maybe it will.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's a tough competition. I mean, for sure.
TTE.
Every week we could have several.
I know. Well, let's try this. Let's see how it works. Okay. TTEC is a company that's worth $2 billion, and it has about 16,000 American workers. And last month, they were told that the company will be pausing 401k matches in favor of AI investment. Oh my God. Like,
Same announcement.
what is the best way to tell your employees you do not see them as people or care about them? Be like, you understand, we're not going to support your retirement because we need more AI to eventually do your job. That is terrible. TTEC, bad behavior.
Is it TTEC or TT? I mean, it's definitely a company no one's ever heard of, and now will forever be associated with being, total jerks.
Yeah.
I would love to have been in some of these meetings where this was decided. I mean, I as you said, I can't think of another way other than firing people to demoralize your workforce than an announcement like this. And I will say, sometimes companies do stuff like this to encourage people to leave so they don't have to fire them and pay severance or face liability when they fire them. So I wouldn't be surprised if a
This
number of
is,
people were fired there in a couple months.
like, you think this is kind of forced attrition they're looking for here.
Yeah, I mean, how else could they expect an employee to
Well, is there
receive this
any,
news?
do they have any like any way to fight back against this other than, no, they don't, right?
For the employees? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to assume it's a non-union environment
Yeah,
and
I
that these are
will
at
assume.
will employees, and their remedy is to leave. And I'm sure a bunch of them will. And companies right now, like TTEC,
Could be
ba-
T-Tex, right?
are banking on their belief that it's harder to find a job and employees are less likely to leave, no matter what they do. And I think that's a really shitty thing to do, to take advantage of that type of economic situation, which is true for some industries and is not for others,
Yeah.
I will say.
Yeah. Yeah. If a company is fighting for its life, it's got to do what it's got to do. But it's hard to say that with this company. So
Yeah, and by the way, like pause means it's never restarting, and
exactly.
investing in AI for a customer service company means replacing your jobs. So if you're one of the smarter employees at that company, you're like, okay, time to go.
The writing is not just written on the wall, it's in neon.
Yeah. And by the way, not every company offers 401k match. Smaller ones typically don't, but company of 16,000 people, they're gonna,
That kind of valuation.
yeah, typically they would offer a 401k match. And I think actions like that, first it leads to employees leaving. And it's not the crappy employees, it's the good employees. They'll leave. It's the ones
Yeah.
who have job prospects will leave. So
Of other
that hurts employee morale. It takes a long time to replace them. There's study upon study that shows it leads to decreases in productivity, greater loss, less efficiency. Like there's so much harm that's caused by announcements like this.
Yeah, terrible. And you have pointed out so many times that we are seeing growing worker unrest. And some of the articles I read about tech surveillance and tech creep really show that it does seem like it's leading to more employee pushback. Like the employers, you talked about how we were going to see more of an environment with resistance in the workplace.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see that because of some of these high-handed practices.
Yeah, I mean, the week after I said that, I think 4 or 5 warehouses were burned down on the West Coast, by workers who left messages that said, if you paid us more, we wouldn't have done this.
Wow.
And there's some pretty prominent labor strikes and negotiations going on that have received attention that maybe they wouldn't have a couple years ago. And I mean, workers are looking at what's going on in our society, and they're saying the way you get things done these days is you yell at the top of your lungs and threaten people.
Where could they have gotten that idea from?
Yeah, and so on the other side, we've seen unprecedented increases in corporate security measures and budgets for CEOs, and obviously we had the United Healthcare CEO being gunned down in New York, and recently in connection with the Mamdani Ken Griffin saga, we've had renewed attention to the issue of why is the mayor shooting a video in front of a CEO's house, when there's calls for violence against corporate CEOs? And I think that's a valid point.
That's real. Why is he doing it?
Oh, that's a whole discussion, isn't it?
Oh.
But I totally disagree with it, and I don't think it should be done, and I don't think anybody should be singled out like that,
Right,
whether they're a CEO or not.
Like employee payouts. Tell me, so I have worked at many companies where people have gotten payouts, and the joke was always kind of like, well done to that guy. Half they destroyed their career by being such a squeaky wheel they were asking for a payout, and half, wow, look at that money they got.
Yeah. Amazing, because it's supposed to be confidential. So
Yeah, exactly. So how does this work? What do you have to do for a company to be like, you know what, easier to pay you off?
Great question. Let's give a little context to where this
Okay.
is coming from.
This
And
is
I've resisted for 2
Morgan
weeks.
story. Yes.
Yeah, I've resisted for 2 weeks talking about this story, but here we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was
For-
there was an employee at JP Morgan Chase who alleged that his supervisor, a woman, sexually harassed him or attacked him, right?
No, she allegedly made him her sex slave.
Same
That's
thing. Okay.
same thing.
Same thing. Go on. Tomato, tomato.
And by the way, he's now a former JP Morgan employee, and he has a
Okay,
job
tomato, tomato.
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So he allegedly, and she wasn't his supervisor, it was a coworker, but she was a higher level coworker, and he filed an internal complaint. There was an investigation. There was apparently a negotiation. It's now come out that he was offered $2 million to move on from this and didn't take it and filed a lawsuit that led to this just exploding, all over social media.
Up, right?
Well, the lawsuit was filed, then withdrawn, and then somehow his AI searches were found. I told you there was an AI element here. People thought he was making it up with AI, but then it was refiled, and it's a legitimate, it's a legitimate lawsuit. And I think the fact that JP Morgan, and they haven't denied this, the fact that they offered him $2 million is pretty significant. I've dealt with JP Morgan. They don't throw around money like that.
What does that indicate? There was some validity to the claim?
Yeah, so typically companies would only offer money if there is some validity to the claim or there's some significant potential issue they're trying to avoid ever seeing the light of day.
Has the person he accused, is that person still at JP Morgan?
Yes.
And denying
And
all.
she denies everything, but and she hasn't sued him. And one important point, some people may say, well, why doesn't she sue him for defamation? Well, a court filing is privileged as long as it's made in good faith, and so we'll see. That's got to play out a little before she could do something like that. And he hasn't made any statements outside the court filing. But the issue is sort of come back to, how do companies make decisions on when to make payouts? And so I would say, probably 95% of cases that are threatened get settled at some point. They, before they come to trial. And companies make the decisions on very different bases, so I would say a couple years ago, any type of harassment suit would receive, really pretty serious attention and pressure to settle post Me Too and post Black Lives Matter. In the heat of those times, there was cases that were being settled for dollars pretty quickly and probably a little higher than they would have been before. That pressure is gone. That is gone. I'm seeing companies now, and I handle some of these cases, so I will just say that from the individual's perspective, and I used to handle them from the other side. That pressure is pretty much gone. With this administration and the lack of government oversight and sort of how the media cycle is turned against women and DEI and all that, employee rights, etc., companies feel less pressure. Yeah, so there was a couple cases this week. This case has been playing out, and I don't know, maybe JP Morgan was trying to get ahead of the sensational claims, and maybe they thought they would become a big thing, and it turns out they have. There was another case that came out this week against Wes Edens, who's a prominent private equity founder who, hooked up with someone on LinkedIn, and she tried to extort him. She said, if you don't pay me millions of dollars, I'm going to send videos of us having sex to
I saw that.
news outlets. Now that's extortion. That's extortion. There was no employment relationship. It was a relationship gone bad. You could argue about whether it was stupid or reckless or whatever, but she's been charged with extortion and arrested. So that's a different story. But
I will say, as much as I don't like many choices by Jeff Bezos, when they tried to extort him with pictures of him and Lauren, his now wife, Lauren Sanchez Bezos, and he was just kind of we look good, run with them. I did appreciate that moment.
Yeah,
it's a terrible way for people to find out in his life, but I like that he didn't let them extort him.
Yeah, so these decisions get made in a lot of different ways. Some companies are very private. They never want to be in the spotlight. They never want to be in a lawsuit. So no matter what the claims are, they're going to find a way to settle it. There are some companies who have a policy of, we will not settle anything, and just come after us if you will. And the reality is most people do not want to jeopardize their future employability, their reputation, with a lawsuit. So they're only going to bring a lawsuit if it's really
before you go
serious.
Work at a company. Not to be crazy, but I think it's worth people knowing before they go work for, say, one of Elon Musk's companies, understanding his relationship with not paying former employees or being sued by former employees. Like, you might want to look into that if you are going to work in a hot industry, what your employer's perspective is on things like this.
Right. And it's not that hard to find. I mean,
Right.
these are all public, like lawsuits are public. And like someone like him, I mean, there are so many employee related lawsuits against Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would want to work for him. I wouldn't. And there are other people like that and other companies like that. So ultimately, the facts of the claim, how much merit there is to it, the publicity value, the cost of litigation, all these things come into precedent. They all come into the equation. There's nothing new about that. What changes with time is the public pressure that companies feel. And like I would say for a harassment suit to get significant media attention these days, it would have to either involve someone really significant, like a public figure, or the allegations would have to be extreme. And so this JP Morgan case kind of fits the latter.
This is like, it's a guy accusing a woman. People aren't used to seeing that. It
Right.
had an interest level for people, due to that, I think.
Yeah. And then the memes got a hold of it and it just sort of took on a life of its own.
All right, let's do winners and losers, or heroes and zeros.
Heroes and
Let's
zeros.
do heroes and zeros.
All right, who's your zero?
My zero is how annoying it is to try to ship things if you don't already have a quarter. Sorry. I almost lost my mind. I wasted 2.5 hours this afternoon, and I still haven't accomplished getting a package that got delivered to the wrong place picked up and sent to me. It's very complicated, and I am good at some things and not good at this, it seems. And
You're annoyed.
I'm annoyed. And I probably sounded like a crazy lady to the people on the phone. I was not my best self. And if AI was monitoring it, they would have been like, this person is crazy.
Her emotions are out of whack.
Yeah, by the time, because did you know when it gives you the choice to print the label, if you don't save it immediately, you can't get it back. They ended up having to cancel the order and I have to create a new one. I don't know if it makes sense, but it was very frustrating. UPS and FedEx, you frustrated me today.
Everyone's has their package stories. I think
Yes.
everyone can sympathize with you, or hopefully they do.
How about you, Peter?
All right, so my zero is an event scheduled for this Sunday on the National Mall called the National Jubilee of Prayer, Praise, and Thanksgiving, which is being sponsored by the administration and the 250, I'll tell you in a second, the 250th Anniversary Committee, and is being funded by millions of dollars in taxpayer dollars. And it's promoting mostly Christian values. I think all speakers except for three.
Wait, what's it called? No, I need to look this up. What is
The
it called?
National Jubilee of Prayer, Praise, and Thanksgiving. And senior government officials are taking part and attending. It's 9 hours long. All but three speakers
And
are.
one prayer?
Yeah.
Nice.
So this is sort of
Whoa.
not supposed to be happening under the Constitution. And
I was unaware of this. Thank you for pointing this out.
yeah, I think most people are unaware of it, but I'm aware of it because I'm going to be
online, and I still was unaware.
yeah.
Wow.
I this whole like we're gonna have prayers before press conferences and we're gonna have prayers for our troops. It's not
my
supposed to be a part of government or governing. I'll just say that.
Oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, yours was a little more meaningful than mine. Now I
Yeah.
feel like I need to have a deeper hero because I had very light. Mine.
Well, go deep. Go ahead. Throw deep.
What? I'm not going to throw deep. I went out to an event last night, heard my friends Mark Edelman and Carol Radswell in conversation, which was great. And you know
Oh.
who I met? Hero of my people, Michael Glantz, the CIA agent that stayed to eat his salad.
Oh, the Barada guy.
The burrata guy. And he was like, it was a custom suit. I only took one bite of the burrata. What a charming man.
Yeah.
That's an irreverent but truthful. He was a hero. He ate a salad. I love it. That's it.
That's good. I like that. So I have two heroes, one personal and one I'll
Wait,
spend more
let me
time
just say
on.
one other. This person has had a distinguished career supporting many of the top newscasters and storytellers of our time. I'm in no way making light of his legacy and the work that he does. He was a charmer, and it was great to meet him. Go on.
He's Wolf Blitzer's agent. That's why he was
Yeah,
at
that's what I'm
the dinner.
saying. He's important. He works with important people.
Yeah. All right. So two heroes. One, my son Zach is graduating from his master's program this weekend. So congratulations to him. Very proud of him, obviously.
Zach.
And that's why I know about this stupid religious event, because his graduation is going to be right next to this whatever. So
Oh,
I'll give you some reports from the field.
that's why you were asking about restaurants. Okay, I see. I'm putting
Yeah.
it all together now. Gotcha.
Yeah. But the other hero of the week is kind of obscure, so stay with me a little bit, but is a man named David Modica who lives in Marblehead, Massachusetts, who's achieved some significant attention online for a speech he gave at a town hall meeting where he basically called out the inefficiency of government and also the greediness of his fellow residents. And it was in connection with a state law that required towns to have affordable housing. And his particular town, Marblehead's efforts to skirt this law and basically circumvent it. And he just got up at the meeting and he said, so let me understand, we're passing something that's not actually going to build housing for our fellow human beings. And he said, and they said, yes. And then he said, so we're just being jerks. And that's really resonated with people. And I think, there's a lot of that going on right now. And to hear someone who's just sort of a regular person say it is really striking. And there's a lot of people
Standing up,
who
speaking
are
truth
just
to
being
power.
jerks. So I'd say, be kinder and more thoughtful to your, fellow citizens, neighbors, etc.
And eat the burrata.
Bravo, David Modica, taking a stand.
Bravo, David Modica. All right, that was a good heartfelt.
All right.
Very
Yeah.
heartfelt, Peter.
I'm like a sensitive guy.
I know.
All right.
50th episode, Peter.
Yeah, it was a good one. Another good one.
All right. Thank you, Sadie Rahbar, for the 50th episode you have produced for us.
Yeah, another notch in her belt. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Please watch, share. The intern episode's getting shared. People getting a lot of good feedback on that. Any suggestions you have for future episodes, we're happy to take them. And we'll see you next week on Across the Bar. Thanks.